The courtroom was silent. Every eye in that packed chamber was fixed on the young man standing at the defendant's table. His hands trembled slightly as he clutched the edge of the worn wooden podium. The judge leaned forward, lips curled into the faintest of smirks. "Mr. Turner," he said coldly, "you'll pay the fine. $500. Consider a lesson." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The courtroom deputy looked uncertain, even uncomfortable. There had been no evidence, no crime, no justification. And yet the judge's gavel came down with a sharp crack that echoed off marble walls. The young man's response, however, would leave the court speechless. The town of Ashwood, Mississippi, was one of those places where history clung to every brick and sidewalk crack. The courthouse itself stood like a monument to an older South. Tall white columns, iron railings, portraits of judges from decades past staring down like sentinels of tradition. On paper, Ashwood was like any other small American town. A few churches, a high school football team worshipped like gods, diners where waitresses refilled coffee without asking. But beneath the surface, the town was split racially, economically, politically. At the heart of this divide sat Judge Daniel Whitaker, a man in his mid-60s with silver hair combed back and piercing blue eyes that could chill a room. In Ashwood, Whitaker was untouchable. He came from a long line of Southern aristocracy. His grandfather a senator, his father a prominent lawyer. His rulings had rarely been challenged, and those who dared often found themselves mysteriously disbarred, discredited, or ruined. And into his courtroom walked Malik Turner, an 18-year-old black teenager with nervous but determined eyes. Malik had never wanted trouble. Born and raised on the south side of Ashwood, he lived with his mother, Renee, who worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and his younger sister, Aisha, who was only 12. Malik was slim, quiet, with a love for fixing cars. He had spent weekends at Miller's auto shop, apprenticing under a gruff old mechanic named Mr. Miller, saving every dime to one day open his own garage. He wasn't perfect. He'd been caught once trespassing on school property after hours, and once for jaywalking. But he wasn't a criminal. Everyone who knew him described him as hard-working, respectful, and cautious. So when his name appeared on the court docket for disturbing the peace, most assumed it was a mistake. Malik himself was stunned. He hadn't even been downtown the night in question. But in Ashwood, mistakes rarely landed on Judge Whitaker's desk by accident. It was July 14, 2023, when Malik was pulled over by Officer James Carter outside a corner store. Carter claimed Malik had been loitering, that he'd raised his voice when questioned. Malik denied it. Witnesses denied it. The store security camera, which would later vanish, denied it. Still, Carter wrote the ticket. And weeks later, Malik found himself standing in Judge Whitaker's courtroom. The trial lasted less than 20 minutes. Carter testified briefly, his words unchallenged. Malik's public defender, a young overworked attorney named Alicia Green, barely had time to present a defense before Whitaker interrupted. "Order." The judge barked, slamming his gavel. "Mr. Turner is guilty as charged. Fine of $500. Payable within 30 days. No reasoning. No evidence. Just a fine that Malik and his family could not afford. But what happened after the gavel fell would send shockwaves through Ashwood. Malik didn't storm out. He didn't shout. Instead, he stood taller, his voice trembling at first, then steady. "Your Honor," he said, "I don't accept your judgment." The room froze. Gasps echoed off the marble walls. Judge Whitaker's eyes narrowed. "What did you say, boy?" "I don't accept it," Malik repeated. "You find me for nothing. You want to make me an example, but I'll make myself one. I'll fight this, not just for me, but for everyone who walks into this court and gets crushed by you." For the first time in years, Judge Whitaker looked unsettled. The courtroom erupted. Some laughed nervously. Some clapped. Deputies rushed forward, but Whitaker's hand shot up to stop them. His lips twisted into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Very well, Mr. Turner," he said. "We'll see how far your fight takes you." It was a challenge, and Malik accepted. The story spread quickly. Local reporters picked it up, then regional news. Soon, civil rights groups began sniffing around Ashwood, curious about this young man, who had dared to speak against Judge Whitaker. Detective Laura Benson, a sharp, middle-aged investigator from the state's Department of Justice, quietly opened a file. She'd heard whispers for years about Whitaker's rulings, disproportionately harsh fines for black defendants, suspicious case dismissals for wealthy white families. She began digging. Clue 1. Records showed Whitaker levied fines 70% higher on black defendants than white ones for the same offenses. Clue 2. Officer Carter, the cop who wrote Malik's ticket, had been reprimanded 3 times for falsifying reports. Clue 3. Missing evidence, including Malik's corner store security footage, traced back to Carter's precinct, where files mysteriously disappeared. The deeper Benson dug, the clearer the picture became. Malik hadn't been targeted by accident. He'd been targeted because he was young, black, and poor, the easiest kind of prey in Whitaker's court. For Malik, the fine wasn't just about money. It was about dignity. He told a local reporter, $500 is rent for my mom, groceries for my sister. They want us to choose between eating and paying a fine that never should have been given. That's not justice. That's control. Judge Whitaker, meanwhile, saw Malik as a threat. In private conversations, overheard by courthouse staff, he dismissed Malik as a boy who doesn't know his place. Yet beneath the arrogance, there was fear. Whitaker had spent decades untouchable. Now, one teenager had cracked the illusion. For Detective Benson, the case became personal. She'd seen corruption before, but rarely so blatant, so smug. Malik reminded her of her own son, a boy just trying to build a future. She vowed to see it through. Just when momentum seemed on Malik's side, things took a darker turn. Red herring. A local newspaper published an anonymous letter claiming Malik had a history of violence, painting him as dangerous. But no evidence surfaced, and classmates denied it. Threats. Malik's mother received anonymous calls late at night. Aisha, his sister, was followed home from school by a black sedan. Breakthrough. A whistleblower inside the courthouse, a clerk, revealed that Whitaker had been funneling fine money into a slush fund disguised as courthouse maintenance. Tens of thousands of dollars had quietly disappeared over the years. The case wasn't just about one fine anymore. It was about corruption at the highest level of Ashwood's justice system. By early 2024, Malik's case had exploded into statewide headlines. Civil rights attorneys volunteered to represent him. Protesters gathered outside Ashwood Courthouse every day. Signs read, "Justice for Malik and End Judicial Corruption." Inside, the courtroom felt like a powder keg. Detective Benson presented her findings. Missing evidence, racial disparities, the slush fund. Whitaker sneered, dismissing it as political theater. But then came Malik. He stood before the judge who had fined him for nothing, the same gavel hovering over his future. His voice, calm but steady, filled the chamber. "You try to make me small. You try to make me afraid. But I'm not afraid anymore. Not of you, not of this court, not of your lies. Because truth is louder than your gavel." The gallery erupted in applause. Deputies tried to silence the crowd, but the sound grew louder, echoing off marble. For once, Judge Whitaker had no words. The state launched a full investigation. Whitaker was suspended pending review. Officer Carter was placed on administrative leave. Malik's fine was overturned. But the battle was far from over. Corruption ran deep in Ashwood. Benson uncovered files linking Whitaker to land deals, political kickbacks, even organized crime. Every rock overturned revealed something darker beneath. And Whitaker, he wasn't going down quietly. One night, just weeks after the courtroom showdown, Malik came home to find a white envelope taped to his front door. Inside was a single playing card, the King of Spades, with one line scrawled across it. "This isn't over." Malik froze. The empire Whitaker built wasn't crumbling. It was preparing to strike back. It was after midnight when Malik found the envelope, taped neatly to the front door of his family's small duplex. It seemed ordinary at first glance. Plain white, no address, no stamp. But when Malik tore it open, a chill went down his spine. Inside was a single playing card, the King of Spades. Across its face, in red ink, were 3 words. "This isn't over." Malik's hand shook. He looked over his shoulder instinctively, scanning the dark street. A car idled at the corner, headlights off. When Malik took a step toward it, the engine roared to life, and the car vanished into the night. The message was clear. Judge Whitaker, or those loyal to him, weren't finished. The courtroom showdown had made Malik a hero to some, a villain to others. In the black community, Malik was celebrated. His speech against Whitaker went viral, shared across social media, sparking hashtags like hashtag Justice for Malik and hashtag End Whitaker Rule. College students in neighboring towns invited him to speak. Local activists began organizing marches outside the courthouse. But in Ashwood's white elite circles, Malik was painted as a troublemaker. Anonymous flyers appeared in diners and barbershops. Malik Turner, criminal in disguise. Talk radio host fanned the flames, warning that outsiders were trying to destroy Ashwood's proud traditions. Lines hardened. Neighbors stopped speaking. Friends turned cold. Ashwood wasn't just a divided town anymore. It was a battleground. Detective Laura Benson hadn't forgotten the corruption she'd uncovered in Part 1. The slush funds, the missing evidence, the skewed sentencing records. Now she had more. A whistleblower inside the county clerk's office came forward with sealed documents. Property deeds linked to shell companies owned by Whitaker's family. The deed showed land bought for pennies, then sold at inflated prices to developers with ties to local politicians. The profits? Funneled into Whitaker's re-election campaigns and personal accounts. Benson's voice was calm but urgent when she briefed the state DOJ. This isn't just about fines. It's racketeering. It's organized crime hiding under the seal of justice. But the higher she went, the more resistance she met. Some files were lost. Calls went unanswered. One superior even warned her off. Careful, Benson. Whitaker's roots run deep. Malik, meanwhile, struggled under the weight of sudden notoriety. His mother, Renee, worried constantly. Anonymous phone calls came at all hours. Silence on the other end. Aisha, his 12-year-old sister, refused to walk to school alone. Malik couldn't shake the sense that someone was always watching. At the same time, he was thrust into the role of activist. Civil rights groups wanted him to speak. Journalists wanted interviews. Lawyers wanted him to sue. But Malik wasn't sure. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a leader. He was just a boy who wanted to fix cars, to provide for his family. Yet every time he thought about walking away, he remembered the look on Whitaker's face in that courtroom. And the card. This isn't over. The intimidation escalated. Red Herring number 1. A local paper ran an exclusive claiming Malik had gang ties. The photo was grainy, showing Malik near a group of older boys outside a gas station. But the photo was 5 years old, and the story was false. Red Herring number 2. Someone spray-painted liar on the Turner family's garage. Threat number 1. A brick crashed through their living room window one night, wrapped in a note. Pay what you owe. Malik's attorney, Alicia Green, demanded police protection. Instead, Officer Carter, the same cop who wrote Malik's bogus ticket, was assigned to keep watch. Malik didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Judge Whitaker, though suspended, remained a presence. His supporters staged counter-protests, waving signs that read, "Respect the bench" and "Turner equals trouble." Whitaker himself gave a rare interview to a sympathetic news station. "This so-called investigation is a witch hunt," he said smoothly. "I've served Ashwood with dignity for decades. This young man, Turner, is being used by radicals to tear down our institutions." Behind his calm demeanor, however, Whitaker seethed. His empire was crumbling, and like any cornered predator, he was growing more dangerous. Detective Benson received a thumb drive in an unmarked envelope. Inside were dozens of scanned documents, internal memos, email chains, even text messages, tying Whitaker directly to cash kickbacks from his court fines. One message, sent from Whitaker's personal account to a county treasurer, read, "Make sure Turner's file disappears. Kid needs to learn who runs Ashwood." It was a smoking gun. Benson prepared to take it to the state attorney general. But the night before the hearing, something happened that shook Malik to his core. He was walking home from Mr. Miller's auto shop, the one place he still felt normal, when he noticed the same black sedan idling near the curb. This time, instead of driving away, the car door opened. Two men stepped out, both in suits, both with the hard eyes of enforcers. One spoke quietly. "Drop it, Turner. Walk away. This is bigger than you." Malik froze. He thought of running, but his feet wouldn't move. The second man pulled something from his jacket. Not a gun, but another playing card. He tucked it into Malik's pocket and whispered, "The next card in the game." Then they were gone. The next morning, Malik sat at the breakfast table, staring at the card. His mother and sister leaned close, waiting for him to speak. It wasn't the king of spades this time. It was the ace of spades. And scrawled across it in the same red ink were 4 words that made Malik's blood run cold. "Your time is up." The card lay on the kitchen table. The ace of spades, its black symbol stark against white, and scrawled across it in red ink, the words, "Your time is up." Malik's mother gasped. His sister Aisha covered her mouth, eyes wide with fear. Malik stared at the card in silence. He understood the message. This wasn't intimidation anymore. This was a death threat. The question was no longer if Judge Whitaker and his circle would retaliate. It was when. Detective Laura Benson was furious when she saw the card. "This isn't a threat, it's a countdown," she told Malik. She pushed for immediate protective custody, but Malik refused. "I'm not hiding," he said firmly. "That's what they want, to scare me into silence. I won't give them that." Meanwhile, Whitaker's allies doubled down. Local businesses put up banners. "We stand with Judge Whitaker." Anonymous social media accounts flooded the internet with lies about Malik. And Officer James Carter, the man whose false ticket had started it all, returned to duty, patrolling the Turner family's neighborhood with a smug grin. The pressure was suffocating. Malik's family barely slept. Every knock at the door made their hearts race. Benson pressed forward with the evidence. The state attorney general convened a special hearing, summoning Whitaker to answer for decades of corruption. Reporters descended on Ashwood, turning the courthouse steps into a circus. Malik, dressed in a borrowed suit, sat quietly at the front as Benson presented her case. She laid out everything. The slush fund, the falsified reports, the missing evidence, the damning emails linking Whitaker directly to Malik's fine. The courtroom buzzed as each revelation landed like a hammer blow. Finally, Whitaker was called to the stand. The once arrogant judge looked smaller now, but his voice was sharp. "This is all fabricated," he sneered. "A smear campaign by radicals who want to destroy this town. Turner is nothing but a pawn." He pointed directly at Malik. "Look at him. You think this boy is a hero? He's a criminal in waiting. My only mistake was trying to discipline him before it was too late." Gasps filled the room. Malik's fist clenched, but he stayed seated. Then Benson dropped the final bombshell, a wire transfer record, signed by Whitaker himself, moving courthouse maintenance funds into his personal account. The chamber erupted. Even Whitaker's allies looked shaken. As the gavel struck to end the hearing, chaos broke out. Protesters outside clashed with counter-protesters. Shouts filled the streets. "Justice for Malik versus protect our judge." Inside, Whitaker leaned across the table toward Malik, his voice low, venomous. "You may win today, boy, but this town will bury you tomorrow." Deputies pulled him back, but Malik's response silenced the chamber. "I'm not afraid of being buried," he said softly, "because even if you bury me, the truth will grow roots." The word spread like wildfire. Reporters scribbled them down. Social media lit up. For the first time, Whitaker looked rattled beyond repair. Within weeks, Judge Daniel Whitaker was indicted on charges of fraud, racketeering, and civil rights violations. Officer Carter was suspended pending trial. Malik's fine was erased, his record cleared, but justice was incomplete. Whitaker's network was vast, his allies powerful. Rumors swirled of backroom deals, payoffs, and plots to derail the case. Malik still received strange letters. Benson still watched a rear-view mirror. The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Malik returned to Miller's auto shop, his hands back on the grease and gears that grounded him. He told a local reporter, "I don't want to be famous. I just want fairness. Not just for me, for everyone who comes after me." Benson continued her work, determined to unravel the rest of Whitaker's empire. And across Ashwood, people whispered about change. Some with hope, others with fear. The King of Spades had fallen, but the deck wasn't empty. Malik Turner's fight started with a $500 fine, but it ended with an entire town, and maybe even a state, forced to confront the corruption festering in its courts. One voice is set up to gavel, and in doing so, revealed how fragile the illusion of justice can be. The lesson? Power unchecked is dangerous. Corruption thrives when people stay silent. And sometimes it takes just one ordinary person, one teenager, one voice, to pull back the curtain and show the truth. But the question is this. Backhand index pointing right when the system is stacked against you. Do you stay quiet, or do you risk everything to stand up and speak?